Okay, the 2015 assault on the Carolinas. This was last year's event. We are approaching this year's event, so I just wanted to do a brief review here of two different sections on the course. This is leading up to Walnut Hollow. The other course I will give a review on is, or the other segment rather, I'll give a review on is the descent into South Carolina via 178. Prior to getting to Walnut Hollow, you're going to have probably about 8 or 9 miles of rollers leaving from downtown Brevard and making your way to the Walnut Hollow climb. There usually is a good bit of separation in the group. You have 1,000 riders starting this ride, of course, doing various distances. But there are quite a few people that are doing the metric century. Probably the bulk of the individuals are doing the metric century. So you probably have about maybe 500 riders. And those 9 miles of rollers estimate there do a good job of breaking the group up and kind of dwindling down the pack to maybe probably by the time you get to the base of Walnut Hollow, you probably got about maybe 70, 50 to 60, 70 strong, somewhere around in there. This is the approach. You have a sweeping left-hand corner, and you are on the approach of Walnut Hollow. The lower slopes have about a 2 to 3% incline, and that goes on probably for about a half a mile. It gets a little steeper towards the end of that half a mile, and then it levels off, and then you get to the steeper section of the climb where you have gradients of anywhere between, I'd probably say, 8 to 15%. If you're trying for a good time, as I was in 2015, I made it a goal and a focus point to stay with the lead group for as long as I could. The previous edition that I had done this was 2013, and by the time I got to Walnut Hollow, I was pretty taxed. I was, already fading off the back and became completely dispatched on Walnut Hollow. Was able to catch back on by the time I got to 178, but got dropped again. So I was definitely looking forward to staying with the lead group. Here you can see I'm about maybe 15 or so riders back, and pace is usually dictated by the team that brought the most individuals. In this case, it is a local team here, Crankworks, Sycamore Cycles, that was doing the pacemaking on this particular day. So had a few more individuals here that looked like they were riding for teams. You had CTS coaches in there that were, of course, riding fairly strong. And then you had a bunch of other individuals that were just like myself, not really team affiliated, but just, going out and, again, just trying to hang with the lead group. So there's going to be a little frown face here coming up on the road. Once you hit that, you probably have sections of, again, that 8 to 12 to 15%. That goes on for approximately about maybe a half mile, 3/4 of a mile. The complete climb and descent is a little over 3 miles. And in training, I was doing that 3 miles around 12 minutes. And looking back at the times that were in the lead group, that had to come way down. There you just saw the face on the road, but 12 minutes was not going to cut it. I had to be in the 10 and a half minute range, so I did have my work cut out for me, particularly being a heavier endurance athlete. I weigh over 200 pounds. So when it comes to climbing, I love doing it. However, I do have to contend with my own body weight. So you're going to see me yo-yoing here as we get towards the top. If you look up the road there, you can see that we are now in the meat of the climb. I'm going to be drifting back ever so slightly. If I had the audio turned up on my breathing right now, I'd sound like a locomotive heading uphill. So I am definitely full gas, so to speak. Thankfully, the pace was, again, not something that was overbearing for me. I was able to stay with the lead group and was dispatched maybe by about 20, 25 meters at the crest of the hill. but it always seems to, after the descent, if you don't catch back on by the descent, you have a right hand turn, excuse me, right hand turn that goes along the river, and they have a tendency to slow down at that point in time so you can catch back on there. So if you do get dropped and you happen to fall back, 25, 30 seconds, you do have an opportunity to catch back on. However, you are going to be expending a lot of energy. So as you can see, people are passing me. I'm passing people that may have went a little bit too hard at the beginning. You definitely want to pace yourself on this climb. I do notice that a lot of people really attack it at the bottom, and then all of a sudden they get to the steep section and they are running out of steam. So myself, I like to pace, keep a fairly high cadence, and keep spinning my legs. And if I have to, I get out of the saddle, or if I can, I get out of the saddle and put in a small effort to kind of get back on. Again, looking at it here, it was a beautiful day. Last year it was approximately, I'd say, probably 50 degrees at the start, and it warmed up probably to about mid 60s. A beautiful sunshiny day. The weather can be kind of a toss up. You can get a little bit of everything. This is, in April, so fronts are still moving through. It's still getting cold, and it could be raining, could be snowing, or it could be nice. Thankfully, it was nice. There you just passed a smiley face on the road, so the worst part is over. You still have a little bit for about 100 meters, a little bit of a climb here, but the gradient probably goes down to about 3%. And as you can see there, I am just starting to come off the back, or have come off the back, but now I'm going to take advantage of my weight and momentum going downhill, so I'm going to catch back on the descent. You have probably about a quarter of a mile to 600-meter descent here, and then you have another little kick up, maybe 1 to 2%, just a small roller, and then you have the main descent, and that takes you all the way down to the right-hand turn along the river. So here I'm kind of regathering myself, catching my breath. I'm going to get out of the saddle, and I got it in the big ring, and I'm going to catch back on. I was literally, like I said, the last person over that still kept the lead group in eye contact. I'll turn around here a couple of times and you'll see me look back, and there is nobody behind me. So once I realized that and there was nobody that was going to help me, I certainly made an extra effort to get back in contention here. So I'm going to catch back on, recover, again, use my weight to my advantage, descend here with this group. I'm actually going to move, after I catch my breath, I'm going to move to the left-hand side and pass everybody and get up to the front of the group and just kind of recover there. So again, if you're an individual who is trying to, get a good time on the entire event, you definitely want to stay with as many people as you can and hopefully take advantage of working a good pace line. And I can tell you, once we descended 178, the group got even smaller than what you see here. So it was probably maybe 10 to 12 here. I made it over probably with about 25. So again, within the span of another 15 miles, that's going to dwindle down to another, half of what you see here. This is an overall good training ride early on in the season. Again, it's well attended, and the Brevard Rotary Club does a great job of making a day of it with live music and good food at the end. And the sponsors do a great job of making sure that the riders are well taken care of, very well organized. So again, you just see me moving up here to the left, and I'm going to make my way all the way to the front here and continue to descent all the way to the right-hand turn along the river. And there you have about a 4 or 5 mile stint before a left-hand turn, which takes you out to 178. You have about probably a 3 mile ascent there, ever so slightly, kind of a false flat, maybe to 2-3%. But again, if the pace picks up, it does hurt. before you start the descent, and that descent is fairly tricky, as you'll see here in the next video. Last year I did this event in 3 hours and 12 minutes and change. So I'm going to be looking to hopefully this year do a sub 3:10. And again, that all depends on getting with a good group of individuals and working together. So descent of 178 is coming up.